Imagine this. Before millions of fans filled the mighty Santiago Bernabéu, before the Champions League trophies, before the Galacticos, before Cristiano Ronaldo, before Vinícius Jr., Jude Bellingham, and Kylian Mbappé, there was only a dusty field, a leather football, and a group of young dreamers who believed they could create something that would outlive them all. What began as a small football club in the heart of Spain would eventually become the most successful club in football history, a symbol of greatness recognized on every continent. This isn't just the story of trophies. This is the story of ambition, survival, sacrifice, and an obsession with becoming the best. This is the history of Real Madrid Club de Football. Madrid, Spain, 1897. In the late 19th century, Spain was changing. Factories were expanding. Railways connected cities. Modern ideas were spreading across Europe. Among those ideas was a strange new sport from England: football. British workers, engineers, and students living in Spain introduced the game to local communities. At first, very few people understood it. Many laughed at the strange rules. But some young men in Madrid became fascinated. Every weekend they gathered in open fields, kicking a leather ball simply because they loved the game. They had no stadium, no sponsors, no television, no money, only passion. In 1897, a group of football enthusiasts formed one of Madrid's earliest football groups, laying the foundations for what would soon become something much bigger. Among the most important pioneers was Julián Palacios, one of the driving forces behind organizing football in Madrid. He wasn't dreaming about becoming famous. He simply wanted football to grow. Little did he know, his efforts would help create the biggest football institution the world would ever see. This date changed football forever. On March 6, 1902, the club was officially founded as Madrid Football Club. Its first official president was Juan Pedros. He was only in his early 30s. The club had almost nothing. No luxurious headquarters, no millionaire owners, no famous players. Their football kits were simple white shirts inspired by an English amateur club called Corinthians FC. Nobody imagined those white shirts would one day become the most famous uniform in football. The players paid many of their own expenses. They traveled however they could. Sometimes they changed clothes in nearby buildings because proper dressing rooms didn't exist. Every match felt like a battle just to keep football alive, but every victory attracted more supporters. Slowly, Madrid Football Club began growing. Only months after being founded, the young club entered the Copa de la Coronación in 1902, a tournament organized to celebrate the coronation of King Alfonso XIII. Although they didn't win the competition, the experience proved they could compete with Spain's strongest teams. It lit a fire inside the club. Failure became motivation, not discouragement. That mindset would define Real Madrid forever. Just 3 years after its official founding, Madrid Football Club won its very first Copa del Rey. Then they won it again and again. Soon, people across Spain were beginning to recognize one name: Madrid. The young club had become a rising power. If you're enjoying this journey through football history, take a second to subscribe, because every week we bring you the untold stories behind football's greatest clubs, legendary players, unforgettable moments, and the history that shaped the beautiful game. Now, let's continue. On June 29, 1920, King Alfonso XIII granted Madrid Football Club the title Real, meaning royal. From that day forward, the club became officially known as Real Madrid Club de Football. A royal crown was added to the club's crest. It wasn't just a new name, it was a new identity. Real Madrid now represented excellence, honor, prestige, responsibility. The expectations became much greater, and the club embraced them. Instead of fearing pressure, they welcomed it, because pressure creates champions. Throughout the 1920s, crowds became larger. The club attracted better players. Football was becoming more organized across Spain. New rivalries emerged. One rivalry, in particular, would eventually become the biggest football rivalry in the world. A club from Catalonia. That club was FC Barcelona. Neither club realized their meetings would one day stop nations. By the end of the 1920s, Spanish football was entering a completely new era. Professionalism, competition, pressure. Television was still years away, but football was already capturing hearts across the country. And Real Madrid stood at the center of that revolution. Previously, by 1929, Real Madrid had become one of Spain's rising football clubs. The team had earned respect. The fans were growing in number. The club carried the royal title, Real. Everything seemed to be moving toward a bright future. But history had other plans. Sometimes the greatest battles are not fought on a football pitch. They're fought simply to survive. In 1929, Spain launched its first National League competition, La Liga. For the first time, the country's best clubs would compete in a structured league season. Real Madrid proudly became one of the founding members. The club dreamed of becoming Spain's dominant force, but success would not come easily. Competition was fierce. Every match demanded determination, discipline, and sacrifice. Although Real Madrid showed flashes of brilliance, they still had much to prove. The road to greatness would be longer than anyone imagined. In April 1931, Spain became the Second Spanish Republic. With the monarchy abolished, the club was no longer permitted to use the royal title, Real. The royal crown disappeared from the club crest. The club was once again known simply as Madrid Football Club. For many supporters, it was a painful change, but even without the crown, the spirit of the club remained unchanged. Real greatness is never defined by a symbol. It is defined by character. Just 1 year later, Madrid Football Club made history. During the 1931-32 season, they won their first ever La Liga championship. Even more remarkable, they completed the league season without losing a single match. It was one of the earliest demonstrations of the winning mentality that would later define the club. The following season, 1932-33, they defended the title successfully. Back-to-back league champions. Spain had a new football powerhouse. Supporters celebrated throughout Madrid. Children began dreaming of wearing the famous white shirt. But happiness would not last. Then came one of the darkest chapters in Spanish history. In July 1936, the Spanish Civil War erupted. The country was divided. Families were separated. Cities were devastated. Football suddenly became insignificant compared to the struggle for survival. League competitions were suspended. Many footballers enlisted or were drafted into military service. Several club officials lost their lives during the conflict. Training grounds became quiet. Stadiums were damaged. The future of Madrid Football Club was uncertain. Some feared the club would never recover. There were moments when football itself seemed destined to disappear from Spain. For nearly 3 years, football almost vanished. Supporters worried every day. Would there still be a club when peace returned? Nobody knew. The dream that began in 1902 hung by a thread. Yet even during the darkest days, hope remained alive. Because hope is often the first victory. When the Civil War ended in 1939, Spain was left exhausted. Cities needed rebuilding. Communities had been torn apart. Football clubs across the country faced enormous financial difficulties. Madrid Football Club was among them. The club had lost players. Resources were scarce. Its facilities required major repairs. It almost felt as though everything built over nearly 40 years had been erased. But sometimes, the greatest stories begin after everything appears lost. One man believed Real Madrid could become greater than ever before. His name was Santiago Bernabéu. Born in 1895, Bernabéu had first joined the club as a young player during his teenage years. He later became a captain, director, and devoted servant of the club. During the Civil War, like many Spaniards, his life was deeply affected by the conflict. When peace returned, he saw more than a damaged football club. He saw limitless potential. In 1943, at 48 years old, Santiago Bernabéu was elected president of Real Madrid. That single decision would change football forever. Bernabéu refused to think small, while others dreamed of winning the next match. He dreamed of building the greatest football institution on earth. He modernized the club's structure. He improved youth development. He strengthened recruitment. He planned for long-term success instead of short-term glory. Many thought his ambitions were unrealistic, but history would prove them wrong. Bernabéu believed a great club deserved a great home. Construction began on a massive new stadium. It was an enormous financial risk. People questioned whether so many seats would ever be filled. But Bernabéu saw the future before anyone else. On the 14th of December, 1947, the new stadium opened. Initially known as the Nuevo Chamartín Stadium, it became one of the largest football stadiums in Europe. Years later, it would be renamed the Santiago Bernabéu Stadium in honor of the man whose vision made it possible. The stadium was more than concrete and steel. It became a symbol of ambition, a fortress, a place where dreams and opponents would often be broken. Bernabéu knew something else. A magnificent stadium alone would not create a legendary club. He needed extraordinary players, footballers capable of inspiring generations, players who would transform Real Madrid from Spanish champions into global icons. His scouts searched tirelessly across Europe and South America. Then, they found a footballer unlike any the game had ever seen. His name was Alfredo Di Stéfano. His arrival would reshape football history. If this documentary has shown you a side of Real Madrid you've never seen before, don't forget to subscribe. Every week, we dive into the untold stories of football's greatest clubs, legendary players, unforgettable rivalries, and the moments that changed the game forever. Now, the greatest chapter is about to begin. In 1953, after months of negotiations and controversy, Real Madrid completed the signing of Alfredo Di Stéfano. Many historians still describe it as one of the most influential transfers in football history. Di Stéfano wasn't simply a striker. He could defend. He could create chances. He could score. He could lead. He seemed to be everywhere on the pitch. Santiago Bernabéu had found the player who could bring his extraordinary vision to life. Real Madrid was no longer just rebuilding. The club was preparing to conquer Europe, and the world would soon witness a dynasty unlike anything football had ever seen. Previously, Real Madrid had survived political upheaval, civil war, and years of rebuilding. Now, under the visionary leadership of Santiago Bernabéu, the club had a magnificent new stadium and had just signed one of football's greatest talents, Alfredo Di Stéfano. The stage was set. The dream was no longer just to dominate Spain. The dream was to conquer Europe. When Alfredo Di Stéfano arrived in Madrid in 1953, he was 27 years old, at the peak of his career. From his very first training sessions, teammates noticed something extraordinary. He wasn't just a goal scorer. He defended. He organized attacks. He chased every loose ball. He inspired everyone around him. Supporters had never seen a player quite like him. Every touch of the ball brought excitement. Every match attracted larger crowds. Real Madrid had found its heartbeat. Santiago Bernabéu wasn't satisfied with signing only one superstar. He wanted a team that could dominate for years. One by one, world-class players joined the club. Among them was the lightning-fast winger Francisco Gento, whose incredible pace terrified defenders. Then came the elegant French midfielder Raymond Kopa, bringing creativity and intelligence to the midfield. Later, the powerful striker Ferenc Puskás would add even more firepower. Together, they formed one of the greatest teams football had ever seen. But Europe had yet to discover them. That was about to change. In 1955, European football introduced a brand new tournament. It was called the European Champion Clubs Cup, now known as the UEFA Champions League. Only the champions of each country would compete. Many clubs hoped to make history. Real Madrid intended to own it. The inaugural final took place on June 13, 1956. Real Madrid faced the French club Stade de Reims. The match was dramatic. Real Madrid fell behind, but champions never panic. Led by Di Stéfano, the team fought back with courage and determination. When the final whistle blew, Real Madrid had won, 4-3. The club lifted the first European Cup in football history. No one knew it then, but this was only the beginning. 1 year later, many believed winning once had been luck. Real Madrid answered on the pitch. They reached the final again. This time, they defeated ACF Fiorentina 2-0 in front of their home supporters. 2 consecutive European Cups. Europe was beginning to fear the men in white. Success changed expectations. At Real Madrid, winning was no longer celebrated as a surprise. It became an obligation. Every player understood one rule. The badge on the shirt was bigger than any individual. Every training session demanded excellence. Every match demanded total commitment. Second place was never enough. This relentless mentality would define generations of Real Madrid players. If you're enjoying this journey through the incredible history of Real Madrid, make sure to subscribe. There are many more unforgettable stories ahead, from legendary players and iconic matches to the triumphs and heartbreaks that shape football history. Now let's continue with one of the greatest dynasties the sport has ever seen. The 1958 European Cup final was another test. Real Madrid met the Italian giants AC Milan. The match went into extra time. The players were exhausted. Every sprint became painful. Every tackle mattered. Yet Real Madrid refused to surrender. They won 3-2, 3 consecutive European Cups, an achievement never seen before. The following season brought another final, this time against the French club Stade de Reims once again. Real Madrid played with confidence. They controlled possession, created chances, and secured a 2-0 victory. 4 consecutive European Cups. The football world watched in amazement. Supporters across Europe began calling Real Madrid the kings of the continent. Then came the match that many historians still consider the greatest European Cup final of all time. May 18, 1960. The venue was Hampden Park in Glasgow, Scotland. More than 127,000 spectators packed the stadium. Real Madrid faced Eintracht Frankfurt. Millions more followed the match through television and radio. The atmosphere was electric. After falling behind early, Real Madrid produced a performance for the ages. Stéfano scored 3 goals. Puskas scored 4 goals. The final score, Real Madrid 7-3 Eintracht Frankfurt. 7 goals in a European Cup final against one of Europe's strongest teams. The football world stood in disbelief. That performance became legendary. Even decades later, it is remembered as one of the finest displays by any club side. Between 1956 and 1960, Real Madrid achieved something no club has ever repeated in the modern era. 5 consecutive European Cup titles. The club had become more than champions. It had become a symbol of footballing excellence. Children across the world dreamed of wearing the white shirt. Opponents respected them. Supporters adored them. History embraced them. The dynasty envisioned by Santiago Bernabéu had become reality. These victories transformed Real Madrid from a successful Spanish club into a global football institution. The club's name became synonymous with ambition, excellence, and an unyielding desire to win. The foundation had been laid, but maintaining greatness would prove just as difficult as achieving it. New rivals would emerge. New generations of players would carry the responsibility. The journey was far from over. Fast forward. The decades passed. Real Madrid continued to collect league titles, produce legendary players, and build on the legacy created by Santiago Bernabéu. The club experienced moments of triumph and disappointment, but one thing never changed. Real Madrid always believed it belonged at the top of world football. Then came a new millennium, a new president, and a bold vision that would captivate the entire football world. On the 16th of July 2000, businessman Florentino Perez, then 53 years old, was elected president of Real Madrid. During his campaign, he made a promise that many believed was impossible. He promised to sign one of the greatest footballers in the world. If he failed, he said he would accept the consequences. Few believed him, until he made history. At the time, Luis Figo was the captain and one of the biggest stars of Real Madrid's greatest rival, FC Barcelona. Many thought there was no chance he would ever cross the divide. But in the summer of 2000, Real Madrid completed the transfer. The football world was stunned. Barcelona supporters felt betrayed. Madrid supporters celebrated wildly. The rivalry between the two clubs reached an entirely new level. Florentino Perez had a dream. He wanted Real Madrid to have the best footballers on the planet, not just to win trophies, but to make the club a global symbol of excellence in entertainment. This philosophy became known as Los Galacticos. Every summer, another global superstar would arrive. The football world watched in anticipation. In July 2001, Real Madrid signed Zinedine Zidane, then 29 years old, from Juventus FC. At the time, it was a world record transfer fee. Zidane wasn't just a midfielder. He played football like an artist painting on a canvas. His first touch, his vision, his elegance, they left fans speechless. Real Madrid had added another masterpiece to its collection. The 2001-2 UEFA Champions League final was held on May 15, 2002 in Glasgow. Real Madrid faced Bayer 04 Leverkusen. Late in the first half, a looping cross floated towards Zidane. Without hesitation, he struck the ball first time with his left foot. The volley flew into the top corner. It remains one of the greatest goals in Champions League final history. Real Madrid won 2-1. The club lifted its 9th European Cup, known by supporters as La Novena. The image of Zidane's unforgettable volley became one of football's most iconic moments. By now, Real Madrid had become more than a football club. Children in Africa, Asia, Europe, North America, and South America wore the famous white shirt. Millions stayed awake late into the night just to watch them play. The Santiago Bernabéu became a destination for football lovers from around the world. Real Madrid wasn't simply winning matches, it was inspiring generations. If you're enjoying this documentary, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us continue telling the incredible stories behind football's greatest clubs, legendary players, and unforgettable moments. Now let's continue with the arrival of another global icon. In June 2003, David Beckham, aged 28, joined Real Madrid from Manchester United FC. Beckham was already one of the most famous athletes in the world. His arrival took Real Madrid's global popularity to another level. Shirts sold in record numbers. Fans packed airports and stadiums just to catch a glimpse of him. The Galacticos now featured Luis Figo, Zinedine Zidane, Ronaldo Nazario, David Beckham, Raúl González, Roberto Carlos. Never before had so many global superstars played together at one club. The Galacticos dazzled fans with breathtaking football. They scored spectacular goals, produced unforgettable moments, filled stadiums wherever they played. But with so many stars came enormous expectations. Winning wasn't enough. People expected perfection. Every defeat made headlines around the world. Every mistake was analyzed. The pressure of wearing the white shirt had never been greater. Although Real Madrid won important trophies during this era, the team also learned a valuable lesson. Talent alone does not guarantee sustained success. A great team requires balance, discipline, teamwork, and consistency alongside individual brilliance. This realization would shape the club's future decisions. Fast forward, 2026. The football world never stands still. Legends retire, new stars rise, generations change, but one club continues to remain at the center of football's biggest conversations: Real Madrid. More than 120 years after its founding, the club is still competing for the biggest trophies in world football. The white shirt still carries the same expectation: win, nothing less. As the legends of the previous era gradually stepped aside, a new generation embraced the responsibility of carrying Real Madrid into the future. The club's attack featured explosive talent, creativity, and pace, while its midfield continued to blend youthful energy with experience. The squad remained one of the strongest in world football, competing for major domestic and European honors, and continuing Real Madrid's tradition of attracting elite players. Supporters packed the Santiago Bernabéu every matchday, expecting memorable performances and another chapter in the club's remarkable history. The mission had never changed: to compete for every trophy, to play with courage, to honor the badge. Over the decades, Real Madrid has become more than just a team. It is a global institution. Millions of supporters wear the famous white jersey. Children across continents dream of stepping onto the pitch at the Santiago Bernabéu. The club's history is filled with unforgettable players, legendary coaches, iconic presidents, dramatic comebacks, and nights that have become part of football folklore. Its motto reflects the mentality that has driven generations. Until the end. No matter the score, no matter the opponent, Real Madrid fights until the final whistle. If you enjoyed this documentary and want more stories about football's greatest clubs, legendary players, unforgettable World Cups, and the incredible moments that shape the beautiful game, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our next documentary. And tell us in the comments which Real Madrid legend inspired you the most.